You are a professional footballer. You train every morning, 6 days a week, under constant medical supervision. You earn more in a single week than most people earn in a year. And to a lot of people, that seems absurd. So where does the money actually come from? The short answer is television. In 1992, 16 English clubs broke away from the old Football League and struck a broadcasting deal worth £305 million over 5 years. At the time, it was the largest sports television contract in British history. It was also the beginning of something much larger. Within 30 years, the Premier League had become the most watched football competition on the planet, broadcast in 89 countries, generating billions of pounds per season in rights fees alone. Sky Sports. BT Sport. International broadcast deals with broadcasters in the United States, Asia, the Middle East. All of that money flows into English football, and then it flows out again, mostly to the players. Why to the players specifically? In most industries, a company earns revenue and keeps a fraction for its workers. The rest goes to shareholders, property, equipment, overhead. Football is different. What clubs are selling is performance. The product is the match. And the quality of the match depends almost entirely on the 11 players on the pitch. That makes players the scarcest and most valuable asset in the business. There are roughly 250 clubs operating at the top level across Europe's major leagues. There are perhaps 1,000 players in the world good enough to justify a starting position at that level. Some economists call it a tournament market, a structure where tiny differences in quality produce enormous differences in reward because only the very best earn the top contracts, and the top contracts belong to the clubs that generate the most revenue. A player who is 5% better than the next candidate does not earn 5% more. They can earn 500% more, because the club that wins the title earns dramatically more television bonus, prize money, and sponsorship than the club that finishes second. This explains why wages are high. It does not explain why they keep rising. For that, you need to understand the transfer market. When a club wants to sign a player already under contract, they pay a transfer fee to the selling club. Transfer fees exploded after a 1995 ruling by the European Court of Justice known as the Bosman ruling, which granted players the right to move freely at the end of their contracts. Clubs, suddenly afraid of losing players for nothing, began competing intensely to sign them before contracts expired. The fees became a bidding war. In 2017, Paris Saint-Germain paid €222 million for a single player. That is not a salary. That is what one club paid another club for the right to then separately offer the player a contract. When the fees reach that level, the wages have to follow. No player worth €250 million is going to accept a modest salary. What does a top player actually earn? At the very peak, roughly 200 players in Europe earn in excess of £100,000 per week. A small number earn more than $500,000. Over a career running from roughly 17 to 33 years old, with peak earning years between 20 and 30, the window is short, which is part of the economics. A footballer's peak career is shorter than almost any other high-skill profession. Surgeons do their most complex work in their 50s. Architects design their most significant buildings in their 60s. Footballers are effectively finished at 33. The earnings must be compressed into roughly 15 years. The skills that produce an elite footballer, the precise combination of fast-twitch muscle distribution, spatial awareness, and motor coordination, cannot be developed from scratch in adulthood. They emerge from early childhood and adolescence. You cannot decide at 25 to become a top-level professional. Either it was there at 12 or it was never going to be. That scarcity of talent, combined with an enormous and growing pool of television money, is the engine behind the wages. Unreproducible ability in a market that pays billions for performance commands unreproducible prices. It is not complicated. It is just economics applied to a sport. Now you know.